All right, we're gonna squeeze out one last draft profile tonight. Moving on to another guy that I think is going to be a top five back for most scouts. That is probably higher than this right now in draft circles. Definitely someone for whom it seems to be a little bit of a divide between Dynasty Devy and NFL Draft uh, rankings. And this is UCLA's running back Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet is coming out as a senior. Many thought he would come out last year and even had him ranked fairly highly. He decided to return to school, get his degree, improve his draft stock. I don't know, but I certainly think he has improved his draft stock last year. Seemed possible he'd sneak into the end of day two, but not a lock. This year, I feel as though Charbonnet is a lock for draft, lack for day two and the draft. Probably a second round pick. Um, so let's dig in. Uh, Career production 565 attempts, 3,346 yards, 39 touchdowns. That is a boatload of touchdowns and an excellent amount of yards, although it did take him an extra year to hit these numbers, right? Uh, Career production 75 receptions, 589 yards, certainly respectable numbers. No touchdowns through the air. Again, going to curve this a little bit because he has had an extra year to hit these numbers. Check the career rushing yards. Yeah. And, I do say that, but also keep in mind he didn't really play much at Michigan. His second year was really negligible after showing some promise his first year. So production market share, best year, 24% dominator, certainly a respectable mark, but nothing to write home about. I'd assume that was probably this past year. Uh, Certainly was his most dominant performance to date. 46% rushing yards market share. That's a good number right there. That is, let me compared to my average stud, yeah, that is substantially over the average of backs. Uh, no, it's about right there with the average of backs that have a top 24 season. Um, yeah, 40%. There we go. 14% receptions market share. That's surprising. I mean, that was the knock on Charbonnet last year, one of them. Was his lack of receiving game work, and he seems to have remediated that data point. I mean, that's fantastic. I think this season he had 37 catches. That's plenty. That's similar to JT's third year at Wisconsin. Let's look at his efficiency numbers 6.14 yards per touch. That's a good figure. Again, the average stud that we compare this to is about 6.5. I'll take it. That's not far off. 1.46 yards per carry over team. That's it's in the ballpark. 1.77 was my threshold for backs with the top 24 season. That's close enough. 2.69 yards created. Again, he's right there. He's right at this threshold. 0.14 rush yards over expected per carry. That's not a great number, but again, I like to take this one with a grain of salt. Um, there's certainly some decent running backs that don't crush it at that metric, but it's something to be aware of for sure. This was, excuse me, one of the red flags with Spiller last year was that he really wasn't any more efficient than A Chain. Now, of course, we're talking about A Chain. It's a top five back in this class. So, does that ameliorate some of this sin for Spiller? I don't know. But certainly worth noting when a guy that's primarily billed as a rusher is not crushing it in this metric. 2.29 adjusted yards per team pass attempt. Uh, that's a good figure. That is over the average of backs of a top 24 season here. And finally, 0.23 expected points added per play. That's not at the threshold, but it's not too far off. It's a little bit under. 0.30 would have been the number that I'm looking for. And, I certainly don't think that small percentage difference is something worth crying about. The elusive stats are nice for Charbonnet. Certainly like seeing the 69 missed forced tackles. That's well over the threshold. And honestly, that's right up there with most of the best backs in this class. Corum had a few more than that. McBride had a few more than that. McBride, of course, playing G5 level. Got to give him a little bit of a curve for that. Other than that, I mean, he is right up there with anyone in this class. Bijan, 64, be the leader. 4.15 yak per attempt. That's a pretty average number. Bijan, 6. Kendry Miller at 5. Dwayne McBride at 4.8 would be the leaders in the class. 4.15 is certainly a respectable number. That's what we're looking for. Anything much lower than that, we start to be a little bit leery of the runner. And then a 45% breakaway rate, and that's right there. Like Charbonnet is falling right in lines with my thresholds. Again, these were thresholds for a top 24 back, but I don't think they change substantially if we look at top 12 backs instead. Yeah, I don't think you're going to substantially filter out any more misses. So that's it. So what's the data say to me about Zach Charbonnet? Looking at a guy that's comparable to a successful NFL running back in nearly every way. The only data points specifically the data point that I don't love is that rush yards over expected per attempt. That's a weak data point, and it's certainly something worth paying attention to. Again, that was one of the early flags on Spiller for me. Was that Noah Wright had pointed out, that he was underperforming in that area. So I think this is worth taking note of. Okay, next time we check in, we will be doing film work on Zach Charbonnet. Okay, everybody have a good night, and let's hope for some fun playoff games tomorrow.